Good morning, viewers. Welcome to this edition of Focus on Parliament. My name is Agather Atuhaire, your host. And today we discuss the issue that is in the media about teachers' salaries, the fight and the scuffle, which is not something that we are seeing for the first time, which has become a year in, year out sort of issue that the government seems to have failed to resolve conclusively. We want to understand, is there a role Parliament can play in resolving that, considering that their appropriation role gives them that opportunity and mandate to ensure that those priorities are handled? Or has it failed, or has it not really even considered this issue? We also want to discuss the Parish Development Model. MPs were sent to monitor the activities under the Parish Development Model in their constituencies at the reading of the budget on the 14th of this month of June. Yes. So we want to also look at that and see how is that happening, and ordinarily how is it supposed to happen? How is Parliament supposed to, the MPs supposed to report back to Parliament, and how has it happened before? Because we have seen other issues being sent to MPs to go and consult, but we really don't think we have seen a proper mechanism of how they have reported back on those issues. And to discuss all that with me here is the gentleman we haven't seen in a while, Honorable Latif Ssebagala, the former Kawempe North MP. Honorable Latif, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Madam Agatha, for inviting me for this very important show. And I believe the viewers there, you'll appreciate the reason as to why we're here. And we've come to share with you our views as regards to parish model, and also as regards to the salary disagreements that are going on between the Ministry of Public Service, between State House, Ministry of Education, and maybe the other day you hear about another group coming up, local government coming up, finances coming up. So what should be the best solution for this fracas, so that we can really have a permanent solution for the salary challenges?
You're welcome, Honorable.
Welcome.
We also have Charity Ahimbisibwe. And Charity, I am sorry, I keep referring to you as the SEDU, because SEDU is where we know you. But Charity now works with the Electoral Laws Institute, right?
Yeah.
You're welcome to the show, Charity.
Thank you very much, Agatha. Electoral laws is bigger than SEDU. SEDU is your current small body here. Electoral laws is an Eastern Horn of Africa organization. So it is. It looks at the whole of the East Africa and the Eastern Horn.
I think your face and name had become synonymous with
SEDU.
Yeah. Yes. We also have Jeff Wadulo. Jeff is works with CSBAG, the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, and is also the parliamentary liaison at CSBAG. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you, Agatha, and thank you for having me.
Yes, let's now get into the discussion. And I would like to start with you, Honorable Latif. You know, the fire is on Parliament when things go wrong, because it has so many roles, so much responsibility, but also so much power to do some of these things. We have now the problem of teachers' salaries. Not now, we have had it for a long time. I remember in 2011, it is what welcomed Honorable Amama Babas as Prime Minister, the impasse is still. We have had the issue of nurses, we have had the issue of doctors. And in their minority report, the Budget Committee opposition members wrote about poor prioritization. And they said the committee had identified critical and key sectors touching people's lives that should have got more funds. And they mentioned health, education, and agriculture. And those funds would also go into that. So my question is, with the committee acknowledging that, why has Parliament failed to use its appropriation mandate to help in resolving this problem?
Yeah, I think what you must know, Agatha and viewers, that one of the roles of Parliament is appropriation.
Yes.
But appropriation, how does it come into effect? How does Parliament appropriate? Because those in the kitchen first are the executive. So the executive comes in with ideas that this is how we see the budget for this financial year. And then the role of Parliament comes in that, yes, these are your wishes. You have a wish list. This is how you would like things to move. But according to Parliament, then they look at your priorities and see whether they are in conformity with the needs of the entire country. Because we have seen many ministerial statements that we go through, and then they talk about unfunded priorities. Like, I can give you an example. Minister of Internal Affairs can come with a ministerial statement. Among the unfunded priorities, feeding the prisoners. Now, how can feeding the prisoners become part of unfunded what? Priorities.
Yes.
How are they going to be in the prison?
To survive, yeah.
Altogether. So it's like when they come and say, yes, there is an issue of salary increment for the teaching service, but it is among the unfunded in what?
Priorities.
They indicate it. So in the wisdom of Parliament, I said, yes, there is no way how we can look at this when we see some areas where we can get some money that can cater for that. I'm much more convinced that we don't need a supplementary right now to cater for the increment of teachers' salary. We only need to reorganize ourselves internally to have a cross-check in various ministries and agencies. And some 2 weeks back, I was engaged with some big people in the government. And I was telling them that, please, look here. I don't think there is a political will for the government to ensure that these teachers are paid well. Teachers are not demanding much. And what they're demanding for has been there for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Even more than that, altogether. And they have seen various increments going on. And we must appreciate and acknowledge that as a country, we don't have the National Remuneration Board or Salary Board. We don't have it.
Yeah.
So that's why you see that there is some kind of disparity in as far as salaries are concerned.
Yeah.
You see a ministry where its staff are being underpaid, and the agency, that ministry is supervising, the workers in that agency are being paid more than the mother ministry.
Yeah.
We have seen that altogether, especially the so-called authorities under the mother ministries. Secondly, when you look at the issue at hand, the way how it has been handled leaves a lot to be desired. I'm a teacher by profession. And indeed, I've been advocating for teachers' welfare for the so many years I've been in Parliament. And the issue is not all about that government is really trying its level best to get funds to enhance teachers' salary. No, there's no will. Because I'm giving you 4 areas where government can save a lot of money that can be paid not only to teachers, but even other civil servants, including the army, including the police, altogether. Now, when you look at money spent by the so-called government garages, we have a system in government whereby all those red plate cars, blue number plates, all those cars you see with red or blue or gray, they have specialized garages where government vehicles are taken for repair. Something very small. But they have, go and scrutinize the various budgets for the ministries and also for the agencies in as far as garages are concerned, you'll find out that there is a huge budget for repairs in as far as vehicles are concerned. But unfortunately, because of corruption and other related things, a car that has got just a very small mechanical breakdown, the invoice that is being brought to the agency or to the ministry could be 4 times more than the ordinary garages of Kiseka Market and the other garages around Wanegea. That the same thing that can be fixed at 1 million shilling, for the government official garages, it goes up to 10 million. And that is across the various agencies and ministries. Only the vote for the garages, if we could really have a forensic audit to just look at only one item, how much is this agency or ministry spending in garages, you'll have to be convinced that the money that we could save in that kind of arrangement could enhance teachers' salary for years. The second area is about fuel. Government officials don't know the price of fuel because they're given cards. And someone can be allocated maybe fuel for 70 million.
Yes.
Are we together? Now, when you look at how this fuel is being used, is it used when that official is executing official duties? The answer is no. We have seen these vehicles going around, carrying a charcoal, carrying food, carrying each and everything. Are we together? So, when you look at the vote for fuel in these ministries and agencies, and then you want to see how much could each officer, if he's supposed to get fuel, how much fuel and for what purposes, you will save a lot of money. Area number 3 is about travels.
Correct.
It's about travels.
Those ones.
All ministries and agencies have a vote for travel. We cannot say we can suspend all travels across board. No. There's some travels that you cannot avoid. Necessary travels. But when you look at travels in various agencies and ministries, and you want to enhance public servant salaries, definitely this is a vote that we must look at.
Okay.
How much is being spent by each agency and how much can be reduced. Because we know that these people, these big bosses in these agencies and ministries, don't travel by economy. They travel by first class and second class. And each ticket of first class and second class can take 10 people in economy. Altogether.
Yes.
So if we look at that area, we could save a lot of money.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. And I'll come back to you on that. But what I get from Honorable Latif is the issue of prioritization, like the committee report says. So Charity, I would like to come to you. What's your view on this unending perpetual impasse about salaries, and what role can Parliament play?
Right from the onset, I want to state that I was surprised when the opposition members of Parliament came out to say, we stand with the teachers. Why? Because Parliament is the one that appropriated the 4 million and the 400 and the 700,000 for arts teachers.
Science. Okay.
Yes. Science was 4 million, while the arts teachers were given 400 or 700,000. Now, when you go and tax 400,000 shillings, it means an arts teacher is earning 200,000 per month. And if you tax the 4 million, the science teacher is earning about 3.8 million per month. Now, the members of Parliament saw this during the budget discussions before passing this budget. What did they do to purge the gap? Because they knew certainly if it comes out we were going to see the science teachers poised against the arts teachers. So what we are seeing right now is not any different from the expectation of what Parliament did at the beginning. Parliament was supposed to ask themselves critical questions before passing that budget. Secondly, this whole ideology of we are NRM MPs, then these ones are opposition, and they cannot coalesce around national issues is very unfortunate. Because national interest, as you see it in the Constitution, is a critical matter. It is a matter that should pull together all MPs from opposition and from government, that when they decide on appropriation for a particular group of people, and in this case we are talking about teachers, and the Honorable Latif has told you here that the teachers raised these concerns, even yourself, you mentioned it, Agatha, from the time Amama Babas was a prime minister. Even before that. And it has been a continuous concern that has been raised. They go to State House, they are promised tomorrow you will be paid next financial year, next financial year comes, nothing is done. So they have run for almost 7 or 8 financial years on expectation. And now they decide to take industrial action, and they are judged unfairly. They are told, one, you're selfish. Is it so true that arts teachers could be selfish? Is it so true
that they've been earning free money when they are not working?
Is it so true that government is also selfish?
That's so COVID-19.
Could somebody in government ask themselves if they are not being selfish at this point, if you consider a teacher and the plight of the teacher, that a teacher also has children, also has a home, also has food, also has to live in the conditions, the economic conditions that are existent at the time. So when the arts teachers choose to take this industrial action, I think what is important is now for sober minds to consider what is happening. Parliament needs to go back on the drawing board, should ask the teachers to come back to them, because they have a role of speaking to government. They do the appropriation, they do the thinking around legislation. Now, if I'm happy that the opposition at least has come out to say, if you scrape them from the payroll, it is illegal. But we have seen some members of government continue to push that position. I think they should all pull off that position of we are scraping them off the payroll. They should push more for dialogue. They should put down the accusatory fingers, because those fingers are not doing any good. These things started many, many years ago. They've been promised, and these promises have not come to pass. So Parliament now, beyond just the opposition allying with the teachers, we need to see the 424 MPs of NRM coming out to say, look, teachers' lives matter to us, both arts and sciences. And this whole thing, I had science and arts teachers on a radio talk show, I think on Wednesday. It was so unfortunate. The science teacher was saying, are you arts people, you hold on. Your turn is coming. For us, they have just put us ahead of you this financial year, but your turn is coming. It's not a problem. You know, he completely forgot that for them to get enhancement, it came from collective action. And now that he has got his, he assumes, let the others continue to wallow in their poverty. I seem to be out of it. But he forgets one thing: the environment he works in will push him back to where the arts teacher is. I think, in all fairness, Parliament has to review that budgetary appropriation that they did for the teachers. And I want to agree with the Honorable Latif.
I don't think there's a provision for that. Is there provision for review of a budget that has already been passed?
I know that they will be passing supplementary budgets, but I don't think they will pass one right now. I don't think they'll pass.
They also never pass supplementary budgets on issues like this. We know what supplementary budgets
they would pass for security. But anyway, I think that if there is any window for review, and for me, I think that even if it is going to come in the next financial year, let the process start now, and let the teachers be assured that their future is secured. So in Parliament, we need to see conversations happening around how do we resolve the question of salaries for teachers. Yes, the corruption has been here. We lose $2.8 million per year to corruption. And if we stemmed that, we could be able to resolve so many issues that we face as a country. But that notwithstanding, what needs to happen in the interim right now is to find money from whatever source government can find money. I always see government finding resources. I don't know how they find the resources within themselves, but there should be a way of finding that money to give to the teachers.
Let me bring in Jeff. You have dealt with the money. I don't know if it is the money or just the budget for so many years now. What seems to be the problem, and what is your sense of how Parliament eventually deals with the appropriation of these monies and the priorities at hand?
Yeah, maybe even before you bring in Parliament, we need to find, by the way, who is the presidential advisor on education?
I have no idea. The advisors are too many.
Or whether it's the president who advises the advisor on education. Honorable Latif, do you know the advisor on education? We need to find out whether he actually advised the president in such a way that even the whole thinking about paying a certain category of the similar profession and perhaps level of qualification differently was there anything to think about. Because I think in basic motivational theory, there's what they call comparative wage differential and the attendant consequences that goes with it. We can't be similarly qualified, but because I studied another discipline, you pay my colleague differently from me. I remember that thing came up, by the way, pre-budget, when we even put it up in our position on the issue of enhancing salaries for scientists. We first asked our question: how is government determining who a scientist is? Because I know there are some subjects like geography, which generally is taken as an art, but you know there's a lot of science in geography.
Yeah.
Earth movements and, you know, tectonic pressures and all that. That's all science. So how would you...
Mild science.
Mild science. Science of mild science.
Weather prediction. You know?
Yes.
That's all science. So how would you categorize a teacher of geography? Would that be a scientist?
Mild
or a
science.
teacher of science or arts? So from the very start, I think for me, and the president should have been able to see this really. Or if he didn't, the person who advised him perhaps intended that he should fail so that he deals with the consequences that he is now dealing with. Because we asked those questions before the budget was passed. We met the budget committee, we met the education committee, the levels in Parliament that could have intervened. And I think the minority report also raised the issue that it was a no-go from the start. And we saw it coming. So I don't know what the Ministry of Education was hoping to achieve in this, because the challenge is not just that people are earning less or more, but it is a systemic challenge of compensation of the public service. Right from having no human resource development plan that is strategic for the entire public service, and perhaps the issues that the Honorable Latif spoke to, where you have pay differences between agencies and mainstream ministry staff. You can imagine a PS of a ministry earning much less than the head of an agency in URA, or you remember the former KCCA ED. The Bank of Uganda governor was earning about 53 million basic pay. You know, and then you wonder how they even came to, how they arrived at those, Is it something like, open bargaining, open market bargaining, and somebody say, if you don't pay me so much, then I don't take the job. So the challenge is what we are seeing, doctors, teachers, and other public servants, is just symptomatic of the lack of planning. Or even the will to do so, perhaps, because we shouldn't be having this. For a very long time, there's been talk about restructuring of public agencies. But every time it comes up and it is referred to the Ministry of Public Service, it hits a dead end. There was a talk about a salary review commission. We've never seen the report up to now.
Was the commission instituted in the first place?
There's a committee that was.
I think there was a committee that was instituted, but we've never read the report. But there was a report done by the Equal Opportunities Commission, which actually raised those issues of salary disparities in the public service. And the role of the Equal Opportunities Commission, really.
Yes, to bring equality.
Yes, should be able to advise government on its prioritization. So for me, I think it's not just poor planning, but also I think the lack of the will to do so. Somebody ever say that, you see, it is very difficult to move straight on a crooked path. You end up being the one who is crooked. It's very difficult to move straight on a crooked path. You have to follow the... So you may want to blame Parliament, but I think it's not even within their... Was this a technical decision or is it a political decision?
We are not really blaming. We are asking ourselves these questions because when you look at the Constitution and the laws on that, you get a sense that Parliament should have the final say.
Correct.
And Honorable, I wanted to actually come back to you because you said something about it when you said there's the kitchen, which is the executive. But at the end of the day, who should have the final say on who is allocated what or what is allocated how much? Is it the kitchen or the people who are serving at the table?
Yeah, under normal situations, Parliament could do the real appropriations because that is part of their cardinal objective or role as Parliament. But in many African countries, this is not seen. And I remember there was even some time when we used to reallocate some money from this ministry to the other, or from this item, and so some kind of alterations. And indeed, it didn't go well with the executive. And they said, no, this is what we budgeted for. This is what we planned in this ministry. You don't have the you don't have the right of changing our budgetary lines altogether. So, when you look at such situations, you remember, I think it was Minister of Works, where under some ministerial statements, that MPs were looking at how roads are going to be constructed and how the budget for the roads and how they use state. No, why are you giving such a district more roads than the other? So they try to do some kind of reorganization and say, no, this district, let it get 3 roads, the other one 4, the other one 5. And it became a subject of discussion and contention. That no, if this is what we have decided in the Ministry of Works, there are some reasons as to why we have decided to take on road A, not taking on road B. But I think what should be done as a country, we know that at times our priorities are lacking. That we don't know what comes first. We used to say when we were doing economic scale of preference, how you arrange your preferences according to the most pressing need. But you find, like a parent, your child can give you some requirements for school. That I'm going back to school, but these are my requirements. And item number 1, apples. Item number 2, chocolate. Item number 3, biscuits. And then you find the basic requirements for that child. Textbooks says down there. So as a parent, you say, no. This is not the way how you arrange your list of what? Priorities. But now we are in a government which arranges its list. Chocolate, apples, wine, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to the basic requirements of wananchi when they're down there. And then by the time they reach number 5 or number 6, then they say unfunded priorities.
Yes. Let me stay with you. I wanted to ask you a question. I have just discovered today that you're a teacher, but I know you have a school, or schools. I am a neighbor of one of them. And my question is, as a teacher, as a school owner, what is your view of paying science teachers 4 million and art teachers 500,000?
I've seen on many social media platforms science teachers enjoying life,
eating chicken.
They even go to the BA class.
These are messages, very, very important messages altogether. Because I don't know, as my colleague asked, who are the advisors in as far as education is concerned altogether? Because there is no way how you can sit somewhere as a way of trying, because initially teachers' demands were uniform. They were demanding for their welfare and salary enhancement as a team under their body organization altogether. And now,
so now we have UNATO Arts and UNATO Science.
That's where we're going, because I think there are some other stakeholders who wanted to weaken UNATO and say, now, as sciences, let us form our science association. Now the arts are saying, the arters, they call them arters, are saying, no, let us also have our own. Because when science made their own,
they didn't ask.
Their voices were heard. And it is really very difficult. Very difficult. I don't know whether the government thought about it. Because a head teacher in a government school, his payment does not exceed 2.5 million. A head teacher. Whether you are science, whether you are arts, altogether. Now there's a situation that has come in, that a head teacher, because 90% of head teachers in government schools are arters, are offered arts altogether. Now you have brought in a situation that you want a teacher who is being given 2.5 to supervise a teacher who is being given 4 million. What a contradiction. In modern management, there is no way how you can supervise someone who is getting bigger salary than yours. It cannot work. It doesn't ring a bell. So now we are looking at a situation, because in all schools, the art teacher constitute 85% of the staff, teaching staff. 85%. Because when you talk about geography, English, literature, entrepreneurship, economics, blah, 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 we are talking about arts teacher altogether. Then when we talk about sciences, then you bring in biology, physics, chemistry, agriculture, math, maybe woodwork, like that altogether. But in these agriculture, in these arts subjects, you may find a subject like geography or history, which has 3 or 2 teachers altogether. Therefore, it is really very unfair that we appreciate, because we don't want, because some teachers really want to take us as people who have felt bad that they're being paid more than the arts teachers. That's not the case.
You are a science teacher?
No, me, I'm an arts teacher. That's not the case. We are not really jealous that science teachers, their salaries have been enhanced. But what we are talking about is fairness. There is no way all these teachers spend at various institutions like university 3 years. And when they go to work, they are required to be at school by 7. All of them. And they leave school at 5 or 6. All of them altogether. They are given the same timetable. So they go to the same market. And they face the same challenges. So there is no way how you would have said, yes, the government policy, they want to improve on sciences. And indeed, everybody is saying, yes, that is perfect. But there's no way how you can underestimate the role of the art teacher, because even this science teacher you're talking about, or the science-related subject you're talking about, they cannot be really complete minus the help of the arts teacher. And that's why the art teachers are saying that, okay, now you sciences, those who are teaching sciences, stop teaching sciences in English. Because science is part of arts.
I know.
English is
So
part
find
of
your own language
They don't have
where
their
you
own
can
language.
teach science from without using English, because
art.
English is part of the what? Science
But
subject.
and not only English,
Amazing.
even Luganda, even Runyankore, even Duteso, even Acholi,
They are all
arts. Yes.
OMG.
Charity, I wanted to ask you about the priorities that your view of the priorities that Honorable Latif talks about, where you have chocolate at the top. The problem is the people that complain in this country that go on strike time and again are the critical people. Teachers, nurses, doctors, lecturers. You will never hear these other public servants or politicians or going on strike because they are comfortable, we presume. What causes that we prioritize chocolate and wine and put food and shelter
Textbooks, yeah.
and textbooks at the end? And you also talked about that they have been promised this money. And I remember that particular strike of 2011. I don't know why I remember it so well. It's because also a mama had come in with his pomp and pride and addressing them. That's when there was that plan, that phased increment of salaries. You remember that they said, in this year we will increase this much.
Yes. And it never happened.
So I want you to respond to those two, our priorities and the promises, that who should hold the executive accountable for those promises.
I think who should hold the executive accountable for the promises is the ministry directly concerned, because all the time
headed by the executive, by the first lady.
Yes, because every time he comes up with a decision, he actually says either go to Public Service Commission, see what they are saying, or he sends them back to the ministry or to the schools. So these are the bodies that are supposed to hold the executive accountable.
But they are the bodies that are threatening the teachers and also reminding them that they were earning free money during COVID. They should not complain now. They should compensate.
And I think I saw the Prime Minister pushing that position as well. I think that, like I said from the start, that was not called for. What is required now are sober minds sitting down to review what are the issues. Is it true the teachers have a point? They do. Why? Because promises have been made over years. And so it doesn't hurt for us to begin to plan from today for the next financial year and ensure that these promises are dealt with. But I also want to encourage the teachers through their union, UNATU, to seek redress in court because they have a good case. And until they have a precedent of where the judiciary has set a standard for them, they may not have a reference point. Right now, as they talk, they're just talking as this is what we have been saying and this was a promise. But can we get an arm of government pronouncing itself on the issues that have been raised, such that even the executive knows what is legal and what is illegal, and then we will avoid the impasse of we will scrape you off.
Intimidation.
Yes, that intimidation, because then there is a case that will be in place to say, the other time it happened like this, judiciary decided, and this is where we are referencing from. So it would be good practice if they push them a bit more to go to court, present their issues, and let us get that body pronounce itself. But then you ask the question of priorities. You know, Agatha, yesterday World Bank released a statement and released it in broad daylight and said Uganda is not a middle income status country. Did you hear that news, or it bypassed you?
That's why the minister was timid to declare it.
And yet,
but the president had already beaten him to it and declared.
I know.
and all over the place, there had been you people who are saying we are not, you are the bad wishers, World Bank,
Enemies of progress.
here we were the enemies of progress, and yet for us we are telling you that, look, Agatha, in this country we still have people who do not have toilets to even use. We are talking about priorities, and that is why I'm bringing the toilets. 7% of Ugandans do not have even pit latrines. They still use bushes. And 35% of Ugandans cannot even access a drop of water. We're talking about a drop. The rest can access a bit of drops of waters from the water bodies and springs.
And what
But the
percentage that doesn't even
But the
have 2 meals a
safe
day?
drinking water and is still at 80 of Ugandans. And these statistics I quote, ladies and gentlemen, are in the UBOS. UBOS is the government body that produces for us statistics.
Yes.
Now, that tells you, for me, if I was government, I should pay attention to 2 great bodies of mine. One, UBOS. 2, UNDP, the National Planning Authority. And it's NDP 3 now. It was NDP 2, NDP 1, now NDP 3. I should sit with these documents and ask myself, what have these people been saying? Where are the gaps? What do I start with? And how do I ensure that this which I am starting with will negate the bigger issues for me? I will go back to the simple mathematics. If you look at services, we all access these services. Over your NRM, DP, political,
we all need them.
You need these services. You need a health center. There is one day when you will wake up and you will go to hospital and you can't get that Panadol. And it's only at that point, as a politician who has amassed all these trillions, that you recognize, so you mean in this hospital there is no MRI? You mean in this hospital there is no this? You mean in this hospital there is no glove to deliver a woman? It's only then that it will sink. The bigger ones who can fly out do fly. But we have the ones who are in the middle who think they are very comfortable in MDAs and whatever. They find themselves in these very same hospitals, in these very same schools, in these same communities, in these same markets. And meanwhile, the people who they want to think should not go to school are the ones who come back to bash their cars, rob them, cause traffic jam, cause mayhem on the streets, cause confusion because they didn't give them a chance to go to school. And then the poor teacher who is struggling to ensure that we have some semblance, some behavior, some, values that are imparted in people and whatever, you're relegating them into a position of saying, you're even selfish. I'll tell you that these secondary school students, some of them come for holiday, take drugs, go to school to teach their friends to take drugs. Now, it is the teachers who are struggling with these issues when they're at school. At home, the parent hardly knows because they're chasing the next 100 shillings to put on the table, which is also wrong because the penal code puts the square duty on them in section 200 and says it's your duty as a parent first to take care of you. If you don't, then it is a crime because that is why it is there. But many parents don't even know that is a basic requirement of them. So the priorities government needs to look at are these major services where everybody benefits from, and they are the ones that will deliver us to middle income status.
Thank you. Jeff, I saw you taking notes. Do you want to respond?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what I think that Eble put them across. But did you see, who is this cartoonist?
The
Ogon or Spire?
I think Spire. You remember the cartoon he drew where the president was having the science teachers carried on his back?
Chibubu.
And then there was a weighing balance and the art teachers were this other side. And I think the president was pushing them away in a weighing scale. Remember that for them to be able to, for the president and the science teachers to be able to balance up, he needs the arts teachers, but he's pushing them away, and definitely. And then Uganda was tagging along, and I think with tears. It was very illustrative of the entire situation that we're in right now. And you see, even actually the people who should have feared most about this whole thing were the science teachers, because it was not going to end well. But it looks like the president, I think, has started, because I've had, you remember Bitarakwate's letter, the PS of public service, and then the Prime Minister Nabanja's threats, where they were saying there are over 30,000 other teachers who want to take your jobs and so on. I think the president has now, the new information we have is he has sent the Vice President Alupo to reassure the arts teachers that they're not going to be sent away. So I think he's beginning to listen in, that it wouldn't work. And my thinking is, actually what they could do for a win-win situation, the money they'll put aside for science teachers, get half of that and also enhance the salaries of the artists.
Yeah, because you're the one who spoke about disparities.
Yes.
What makes you increase one teacher's salary by 300%?
Yes.
And the other nothing?
It's less
likely. It would be 200 and 100%.
It is maybe less likely that the scientists will also go back on strike because a little bit of their money has been given to the artists. But the artists will most likely now come back to class because there's something that they have gotten. So that we know we break the impasse. But then I think overall, what government needs to do is not, because salary is just one element. By the way, if you look at it in depth, salary is not necessarily a motivator. Because the more you're given, the more you need. And it ends up being a motivation. People still get paid and they still don't do the work. I think for me, what should be focused more on is the circumstances within which our teachers, all our public servants, work. Apart from salary, they could enhance it over time, incrementally. But the most important things is their living conditions, the materials they use in class, the work environment. If they retire, do they actually get their pension? Those are the things which, more than just salary, which will get people stuck in a particular profession. They will be assured that once I'm done with all this, I'll have a happy retirement. So more than just salary, because then, how many people are you going to increase salary? Even when, for example, the doctors, have you ever asked yourself, why always we put a lot of money in training a doctor, but as soon as they graduate, we're unable to pay them a salary that retains them in country, and they find green pastures elsewhere. So we're training human resources for others to use. Our doctors are in the region, they're in South Africa, they're in the US, and for those who are able to be taken up. But government of Uganda puts in money. So that it kind of bothers me. You have money for training, but you're unable, again, you need doctors, because actually the human resources for health, I think we're at about 70%. So, but even those who are within the pay are unable, to get that kind of decent salary that keeps them. So they have to multitask. Government needs to look at the overall human resource management and development strategy. Enhancement of salary is just one element.
Human resource development was the main issue in this budget, as they said, but it was only said, but not only on paper. But
we need to see that work in practice.
Thank you, Jeff. We need to have a short break and then discuss the Parish Development Model and what Parliament is doing with it. But the issue of salaries is really, really an emotional issue, and for not just teachers, but for all Ugandans who are seeing chocolate and wine be on top of the list when other basic needs are not paid attention to. We'll be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Yes, welcome back from that short break. We want to continue with the show, and I am still with Honorable Latif Ssebagala, former Kawempe North MP, and also with Charity Ahimbisibwe with the Electoral Institute, and Jeff Wadulo of CSBAG. We were discussing the issue of salaries and the teachers on strike, and we want to still continue with this show and discuss the Parish Development Model, a model that has been seen as servable. It is what they call it. It is what is going to bring the development we have craved for so long. And it was allocated 1 trillion shillings in the current financial year's budget, which was 48.1 trillion. And the Speaker of Parliament sent MPs to go and monitor the activities of the PDM at the reading of the budget last month. We would like to know how that is going, but also to hear from people like Honorable Latif, who have been in Parliament, to tell us about how these consultations are done. We have had consultations on the age limit bill. We have had about consultations on the very first, I think, bill that was sent for consultations was the domestic relations bill.
The MAD bill, marriage and divorce bill.
Later became the marriage and divorce bill. Well, I would like to know, Honorable, the rules of procedure of Parliament don't seem to provide for where all MPs go and consult and come back and report. How has it been done in those previous circumstances when you're asked to consult your constituents? Do you come and have a report as an MP? Do you come and raise it on the floor and say what you...
Now, in our first part, we've looked at the other role of a member of Parliament, appropriation.
Yeah.
Now you have brought us to representation.
Yes.
So, definitely when you're a member of Parliament, you are representing the views of your electorates to Parliament.
Yes.
Of course, you become a national figure because at times you don't debate on only matters concerning your electoral area.
That's right, yes.
You become a member of Parliament for your country. But when it comes to bills in the offing, bills that require their participation, because not all bills that you go back and seek their mandate. There are bills that are quick fix that you can handle without even consulting your electorates. But there are some bills, as you have said, we used to have the marriage and divorce bill and the inheritance and blah blah, those bills that required a lot of attention, the age limit. Now, of course, there is no clear structure mechanism where after consulting your electorates, you are given ample time to come and debate or to come and present views from your own constituents. At times you are limited by numbers. Now you're talking about 500 members of Parliament. How will each be given, even if it's given 5 minutes? That's just a tip of the iceberg. There is nothing that you can do in as far as 5 minutes is concerned. And of course, you cannot, unless when you are talking about like poor roads in your committee, in your constituency, where you can go to the committee of works and then you interface with the ministers and technical team as they come maybe to interface with the committee on works, or when you have challenges in agriculture or challenges in education or in the health sector. But when you come to presentation here in Parliament, that you want to put your views clear, there are two ways that we can use. One, there are issues that we always refer to as issues of national importance. But these are issues that are not part of the bills that you are sent, like here, where members were told, go and teach your electorates about parish development model. So in those matters of national importance, that's how members of Parliament come up with issues concerning their constituencies, like floods, like drought, like maybe poor roads, hospitals, etc. Now, when it comes to this particular topic we are under discussion, that parish development model, now they went to constituencies. And remember, even ministers. Yes. Because there are some ministers who are not members of Parliament. But all ministers were sent to go out, to educate, to consult, and also to monitor the progress or to the preparations. Because I cannot talk about the progress, but preparations for the PDM altogether. So now, I don't know whether members of Parliament were fully convinced and were in the know about the nitty-gritties of how the PDM is going to operate. And if they had that information, that's what they have informed their electorates. But of course, when it comes to parish development model, I have some reservations. Because we have tried so many models to push our electorates out of poverty. You remember Plan for Modernization of Agriculture, Poverty Eradication Action Plan, Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. We have the Myoga, the Tawikwa, the
Uganda Women Empowerment.
So we have had a lot of all this, but the final question and a $1 million question: how has all these models, all these programs impacted on the Wananchi altogether? Now, let's talk about the 100 million for the parish. I'm giving you an example, like in Chevando. Chevando is one of the biggest parishes in Kampala here. In Kampala, because one zone in Chevando, that is Kisarusalo zone, has over 20,000 people. It's even bigger than many of these constituencies in Parliament. One zone altogether. Now we are talking about 100 million shillings. Leave alone the 17 million. We're talking about 100 million. And they are telling us parish development model. Me, if I was the one preparing that, we wouldn't have gone into this arrangement in a full blast way. Because we are talking about a model. That means there would have been a district that they began with altogether. And then we pick as a model that yes, there are some parishes, and we go into our traditional regions. That we picked some parishes in northern region, in central, in eastern, and in So that we can, after maybe 3 years, then we'll talk about parish development model, because we have seen these models in these regions, how they have operated altogether. But now we are talking about a model which has been spread. Then it ceases to be a model. It ceases to be a model. Now we are going to implement across the board, the entire country. But I've given you an example that we are having 100 million, which goes to all parishes across the board, over 15 uniform, where you find a parish with less than 5,000 people, a full parish. And where you find a zone here in Kampala and other areas with over 20,000 people. Now you're giving uniformly every parish is getting the same money. Now, how are we going to go about it? That a parish which has over 30,000 people is given the same money as a parish that has a population of less than 5,000 what? People.
I think Honorable is raising an issue that was raised by the opposition. I don't know if it was in the LOP's response to the budget or in their minority report of the problematic nature of that, that you're not seeing, looking at the population of each parish, the size, you're just, or the problems for that matter, you are just saying that every parish gets 100 million, regardless of that, regardless of where one has 5,000, another 50,000. And Charity, I wanted you to weigh in on that as well, but also the issue that he brought in about the very many others we've had, the very many other programs we've had. What will save this silver bet? Will this monitoring by MPs that has been done at the start be our savior this time?
So the MPs, right from the time they started to review the Parish Development Model, and that was, I think, about January of this year, raised some fundamental questions. One of them was, what is the legal framework under which the Parish Development Model was going to work? Because one of the pillars in that model is gathering information, or what we call parish-based management information systems. And it is one of the key pillars on which the others sit, because they're saying it will be the thrust for which they will use to plan the processes around the model. And you know, Agatha, that we have the Data Protection Act. We have very many acts and laws that govern different processes to do with data.
Yes.
So how are we going to be assured that, because for NERA to exist, you know, we have the National Persons Registrations Act. Then for Electoral Commission, we have the Electoral Commissions Act. Now, for the Parish Development Model, what is the legal framework beyond the Constitution and the article that they are quoting there, the 176 on decentralization? Beyond that one article on decentralization, which is so broad, the MPs asked, what is the framework? Because for you to push for accountability, it comes from a place of law.
Yeah.
Now that
it also comes from having an accounting officer. Now they say parish chiefs
will be the major.
Where are they provided for?
Exactly. So, those are part of the problems that the model is already struggling with at the onset, and the MPs were clear on these issues. And I think that whoever is pushing for this model to run the way it's running should pay attention to what the MPs are saying, because it is failing at the start. It seems to just want for people to siphon money, eat it, and do what all the other models have done. Like you've said, we had a Myoga. Where did it end? Do we have an audit report from a Myoga? No. Up to now, I've never read one. Do we have an audit report from PMA? No. Up to now, I've never read one.
I think there's something the Auditor General's report of last year said about a Myoga.
And how about the plan for PMA? Plan for modernization of agriculture? Maybe the auditor's report could
operation
also...
wealth creation.
Or operation. It could... Maybe the auditor's report, because he's required to review all government programs, he probably could have something to do with that. But was it a success? At least I know from everything that came out of Myoga, there's a lot of gaps.
No, but also, Charity, it shouldn't stop at an Auditor General's report. If you're government and you're coming up with another program, first account for us what the previous program achieved where it failed, how the money was used, the value for money, and that should be done in Parliament, I think.
100%. I agree with you, Agatha. I think that is the correct way of running processes. But we don't see that happening in Uganda. We don't see it happening for the previous models. And so what is the silver bullet that you are now telling us about, Agatha? And just so we are not just the devil's advocate, or the ones that they're always saying, oh, every time government comes up with something, you people will always just shoot it down. The MPs tried as much as possible to remain so balanced. And when I read that document, when you read that Parish Development Model document, it is a beautiful document because it is premised on the National Development Plan 3. However, it is also a very ambitious document. If you have run a project, even as small projects like the ones we run, the Electoral Laws Institute or any project that people run, you know that you cannot be overly ambitious. Your resources must be in tandem with what you're saying you're going to deliver. And also when you say you're going to deliver a certain action, we should be able to see you report back on the action that you said you are going to deliver, which we are saying we haven't seen about all the other projects that government has run. But that be said as it is, let's look at the 100 million that Honorable said is going to the 28,000 people in Chebando Parish. Because for me, I had wanted to use another parish, maybe up country or whatever, but I am happy with the 28,000 that we're talking about. And that money is supposed to support the infrastructure, okay? That if Chebando as a parish, what is the the first thing that would happen, which the MPs are supposed to do actually, why they have been sent, is to do profiling of each of their parishes. And I think Jeff mentioned to me that for Bududa, was it, district, they have 160 60 parishes. Now, if you're one MP going to profile 160 parishes.
No, you're not one MP. That's a whole district.
How many MPs do they have? 5?
About 3.
Okay, even if there are 3. 100
and the fourth being the woman
The
MP.
woman MP.
Yes. Even if you're 4 MPs, you're talking of 160 parishes. Agatha, data collection needs to be specific if you are going to deliver on the issues that you're saying you want to deliver on. And the data must be clean. For you to get clean data that is specific, it requires a lot of attention. It's not just a matter of just come and tell me it is this, and UBOS would tell you that. That is why in the model, they say UBOS will be the guiding body. UBOS has done what they call a preliminary pilot data collection points. And I don't know what government has done with those data collection points of UBOS, because UBOS seems to suggest to them that some of the programs, as they are suggesting, will not be achieved. For 100 million Uganda shillings, they will recruit critical staff and they have to pay those critical staff. If it is a place where it is agriculture, you need 300 extension workers for each sub-county. That's what we're talking about. Now, you're talking of 100 million to remunerate those people. And you're still feeling the gaps of the parish chiefs, which we are lacking, and you have to remunerate them as well. Then you have the village health teams for each of the 160 parishes. And I'm only talking about Bududa now. I have focused on Bududa. 160 parishes, and you're looking at the village health teams for each. And every village health team has 12 people. Remember, each parish has got 100 million. So for the 100 million, you're going to do roads, you're going to do water, you're going to do the salary enhancements, you're going to do the road infrastructure, improving on the roads. You're going to have the extension workers to teach people on agriculture. We are still talking.
It focuses on agriculture action, right? The Parish Development Model Fund.
It also has an aspect of agriculture. The aspect
the
of
roads remain under local government?
No, it is part of what they.
Pillars,
it is part
social
of it to
services,
maintain
infrastructure and so on.
To maintain, it is. It says extension workers needed. It says to community roads, village health teams, provide and maintain state and accessible water points. That is provide logistical and equipment for institutions such as schools, hospitals. You're going to buy equipment for the health center 3s. On 100 million. I am trying to paint a picture for you to see the failing at the start without being a devil's advocate, but dealing with the actual statistics.
Who has been on the actual consultation trip in Bududa. And I think mainly I would like us to tell us what exactly the MPs are doing, how are they doing it, like what is the mode of that consultation? Do you get villages and bring them together? Do you visit one parish at a time. And yeah, Jeff is not an MP, but he's doing it as part of his job, but also accompanying the MP of Bududa.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe just for starters, Charity was wondering which legal framework the Parish Development Model rests in.
Yeah.
You know, we had the decentralization law, the act that...
The local government.
The Local Government Act. In it, there used to be what is called a Parish Development Committee, a PDC. Increasingly, over time, the decentralization was was taken over by government, central government, in terms of planning and budgeting processes. There used to be those things of prioritization, you know, wish lists and so on, the bottom up kind of approach to planning and budgeting. But over time, that kind of was overtaken, and central government, beyond the planning and budgeting, they also took on the fiscal re-centralization. So I think at some point they realized, I don't know, it's too late, that we need to go back to the parish as the hub of the planning and budgeting framework. So the kind of money we're seeing and the different pillars, by the way, are working within a frame. Not necessarily that that 1 trillion will be the only money that will go to the parish to work on all those 7 pillars. It will be just especially dealing with the issue of financial inclusion, one of the pillars. But there will be other support services from central government that will use the parish as the hub. Now, we had an opportunity to visit Bududa with the Minister for Karamoja, State Minister for Karamoja, to go and see what is going on the ground. We found so many things, some going a little bit well, but on the major, so many challenges.
Yes.
The first one was the planning framework that was used. I think UBOS used the 2018 data. For Bududa, between 2018 and 2022, there was a lot of administrative units that were created. And so we have now 160 parishes. However, even the money that was released first, the 17 million you had, could only go for 54 parishes. So the district was kind of in a dilemma. They said, it's just like the teachers and scientists and artists. They said, now, if we gave only these 54, even the selection criteria was going to be very hard. So what they did...
Out of 160.
160. So the role of information, as Charity was highlighting, is very important. So what they did was now to say, okay, we'll give everyone at least something. Let everyone at least smell the coffee of government money. So what they did, they reduced it to 7 million so that all the parishes at least have something. And then they planned that in the next financial year, the 100 that was going to come to top up the 17, they will also include the money, less by which, the 10 million for each parish that was supposed to top up to be the 17. So from the start, of course, that was going to be very problematic, that you have, first of all, less money, and that you do not have adequate information to be able to use it for planning. The other one was the way they were identifying the different enterprises and the beneficiaries. The model is supposed to focus on the entire parish, but also the special interest groups.
Yes.
The persons with disabilities, I think there's a focus of about 10%. The youth, 30%. Women, 30%. And then the older persons, 10%. So the remaining 20% is now for everyone else. So, but in this meeting, which was organized and I think should have been done hastily, it was focusing on those special interest groups that had been left out in the general initial mobilization. So we had persons with disabilities here, or older people and women who are represented. And a number of them were actually complaining that they had not been consulted about this whole thing, and they're just being brought in at the last moment. I don't know whether it's because the minister was coming and therefore they had to quickly run around. Then they also shared a lot of challenges on getting information. I think they're supposed to use GPRS or GPS to document and register every
member of the community,
citizen, at the household level, but also capture information at the community level. Yeah. But there were so many challenges that the technocrats told us. One of them was especially in Bududa being a hard-to-reach area. Some places would not have GPS, and therefore they could not capture that information quickly. Then there is this whole thing around the pillar of mindset change. There are 7, but government seems to have focused more on the financial inclusion, which is just one. There is the mindset change, which is going to be the biggest challenge.
But it was also budgeted for separately.
Yes, but
73 billion?
But you see, in a planning frame, you have some things which have to start before others.
Correct.
Come on board. So one of the pillars that should have been emphasized was mindset change before you actually bring the money. But they will bring all these things together before you actually sensitize people on how this money is going to, what it is for. Already people are saying this is Kasimov, the president we elected very well. See? Others are planning to eat that money and run. So, exactly. so those challenges.
That's why the MPs are moving.
Yes. Yes. But by the way, on the face of it and the intent of the program, if it was really well planned, it is actually an opportunity that could, for the first time.
Silver bullet to that charities.
Yes, for the first time.
That could deliver us.
Yes, for the first time, where you have your government. By the way, focusing directly on the citizen. And by the way, do you know that these citizens are planning, they're planning to give them money directly from central government. There will be no middle people. So it was going to be a very good opportunity.
So even if it is eaten this time, it will be eaten
by the citizens themselves.
Which is okay, at least they are taxpayers.
They will feel some money in their, they will feel some money in their pockets.
But it will also be eaten by 1 out of 20,000.
But yes, but so for me, I think
but it's still better than nothing.
The way it has been organized, I think somewhere we'll put the cart before the horse. And that will be part of the reason why it might fail. Because most people are not even aware what it is all about. And the money also per unit, first of all, the different enterprises in the different locations, it's focusing on agriculture. But if you ask a citizen, like on Pillar 1, which is on production, value addition and marketing. Along the agricultural value chain, with our basic, very poor infrastructure. I don't know how that is going to happen. If you have coffee, a farmer in Bududa or in Bulambuli, if they've picked this coffee, are they able to dry it, or first of all, hull it, dry it, and then if they wanted to add value beyond just drying, sun drying, can they actually roast it? Can they grind it? Can they package it? Along there's a lot of opportunity, but do we have the money that they are going to get? I think on average, if you have 100 million in every parish, and you have about 10 enterprises, that's about 10 million per enterprise. If there are about 10 members, that's about $1 million per individual. Is this money going to be able to speak to those aspects of value addition?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I'm going to give each of you a minute to give parting shots on these issues. I'll start with you, Honorable. And you have come at really a timely show. Yes, when we needed a teacher, school entrepreneur, and
it's only
and former MP.
You only do it to teach
not
us.
Just former. He was in Parliament for like
20 years.
Wow.
You only do it to teachers, whereby you have to meet the president first. When you fail to agree with the president, then he refers you to the prime minister. Then you fail to agree with the prime minister, then the vice president comes in. I don't know where the Minister of Education.
But she has also been involved
altogether. Then to public service. I think it is the other way around.
Yeah.
That you begin
Should
with
be failing
up,
down and
then the last
you...
person will be the president.
Yeah.
Altogether. But anyway, things happen. This is how they happen.
This country runs.
My request to all teachers who are outside there, please be firm. You cannot be intimidated. You're on the right track. And you are constitutionally protected. Secondly, when it comes to the Parish Development Model, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We don't want to be informed, or we don't want to be informed next year that we do the post-mortem. We still have the time to really internalize whether this parish model is going to be different from other models we've been seeing, all targeted towards ensuring that people are moved away from poverty. Yeah. And of course, the World Report has clearly stated that we are far from being...
We are not even at the window, like
That is the fact.
The Kamoli.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable. Charity, please, in 1 minute.
So, Agatha, you didn't miss the story. You actually saw the World Bank.
I didn't. I was just laughing because they burst our bubble.
So I think on a parting shot, I am happy that the middleman has been eliminated from the Parish Development Model, and that for once this money should trickle down to the ordinary citizen. But the implementation and the issues that have been raised from onset should be quickly fixed if this model is going to benefit the Ugandan. The president's promise was to deliver 2 million households out of poverty every year. We have already run 1 year since he took over this new term. And when we did an audit of that 1 year, the 2 million had not been delivered. So if he can deliver in the next quarter through the parish model, it would be a good start point for Uganda.
Okay. Thank you, Charity. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, for the teachers, I think let that money that was entirely for scientists be divided so that the artists can also get, so that everyone gets back to class, and then the government goes back to planning on how the entire human resource plan in public service can be done. For the parish development model, I think government doesn't need to hurry on the financial inclusion pillar. They can focus on the others like mindset change and infrastructure, so that by the time they're giving people money, there is something that can support them to be able to utilize that money effectively. Otherwise, we are likely to lose a lot of money before a number of those preparations are in place.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. It has been a good show. I really found it very resourceful. Thank you, Honorable, for coming. I hope this is the start of this collaboration, and you come and you share with us your wisdom, especially in Parliament, since this show focuses on enlightening the citizenry about the role of Parliament and what should be done better or differently. Thank you, Charity. I always call you when I need a passionate person on these issues of affecting citizens. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff has also become, a big member of this panel. And we thank you, viewers. Thank you to the camera crew. We will be back next weekend with Focus on Parliament, and we will continue to question these things of where Parliament is really not doing what we expect it to do, and how these things can be improved. Thank you. Until next weekend, have a good weekend.